everybody, my name is Nutella. Welcome to my very first Subnautica Hardcore Let's Play. I will be providing some voiceovers and narration throughout the video and upcoming videos just to kind of describe what I'm doing, what's going on in the game, and some of my thoughts, as well as explaining things that are happening that wouldn't be as obvious without the narration. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoy this content and want to see more in the future, please consider liking and subscribing. Thanks.
You have suffered minor head trauma. This is considered an optimal outcome. This PDA has now rebooted in emergency mode with one directive: to keep you alive on an alien world. Please refer to the databank for detailed survival advice. Good luck.
So here I'm just kind of going through the equipment and just all the recipes and familiarizing myself with it. At this point, it had been a couple weeks since I last played the game. I think actually about 2 months. And I'm also sick during this period, which is why I'm doing the voiceover rather than you hearing me live as I'm recording the game.
Suffered orbital hull failure.
So here is me just kind of avoiding the stalker and then going back up into the life pod, just to get rid of that dropping animation that you get the first time you ever go to exit the life pod this way. And then I go back in to actually craft some things here.
New blueprint acquired.
So here I'm just going to speed up this process of me just gathering materials. I mean, this is a pretty uneventful part of the game where all you're doing is just gathering and crafting over and over again. So again, not much going on here, me just double checking a couple recipes. And then after this, I'll skip ahead to finding some blueprints and making progress.
Is essential in construction of vehicles and power plants. The fabricator draws from available data to provide environment-appropriate equipment using locally available materials. For your safety, this setting cannot be overridden.
Okay, so I did skip a couple things here, but I essentially crafted a couple of different tools and gathered enough materials for the Sea Glide so that I can finally get around and do the things I need in order to progress through the game.
The Sea Glide will increase your effective exploration range. For your safety, please pack supplies for long journeys and stay within 5 kilometers of the nearest life pod or habitat.
So at this point, I'm just kind of searching for some materials on the way to the grassy plateaus. I feel like at this point I know the map pretty well. I've done a couple of different playthroughs, just never hardcore. And so here is me just searching for stuff for the sea moth and also some of the other life pods, because I know life pod 17 is close to a couple of wrecks. And once you go past those wrecks are the dunes. So I'm just trying to stay within, a pretty healthy range of my life pod and, avoid the reapers once you get further down over there.
Data. Passing 100 meters. Oxygen efficiency decreased.
So once again, I am just going to kind of skip through some of the boring grinding. That way you're not sitting through like an hour of unedited, just raw footage. I could also hear myself through a lot of this as I started to edit it. I'm not sure why that is, but I'm going to skip some and then fast forward some. That way you can see some of the process, but again, you're not sitting through a bunch of unedited footage of just Subnautica grinding. So. Alrighty, so here I am finally building this sea moth, which will help me immensely. I mean, I've already made a pretty good amount of progress, and it honestly hasn't been that long before getting this thing. So I'm feeling pretty good about myself at this point in the playthrough, and I just can't wait to go get some materials over by LifePod 19. So at this point, I have just kind of done everything that I wanted to do. Got a ton of materials and a bunch of different blueprints, including which you may have seen at the moon pool. It's going to be a really important part later, but at this point, I do decide that I'm going to head to the main island where the Aurora Rendezvous Point is. This is mostly so that I can get more blueprints for base building and also a couple of plants that I can bring back, just so that I have a better food supply rather than hunting for fish every 5 minutes. So with this, I'm just walking around the island trying to find how to get up to the left and right bases at the very top. I always do this for some reason. I start going the wrong way, and then I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I need to go this way. And so here I'm just turning around like 6 times. But I do kind of find my way up. I feel like the best way up on this side is just going through the grass. I'm pretty sure there is like an actual trail you can follow up to this point, but I just cut through what I needed to. So, I mean, not much on this side. A couple different plants that I'm scanning here, but nothing crazy. And then I will make my way over to the other side, and then I'll make my way down to the bottom.
New blueprint acquired. New blueprint acquired. Integrating new PDA data. Integrating new PDA data. New blueprint acquired. Integrating new PDA data. New blueprint acquired. New blueprint acquired.
Here, I was so happy to get the Ultra Glide fins. A lot of people say that it doesn't really make a big difference, but I personally notice it quite a bit. There is quite a significant difference in just your basic swimming speed, especially when you start using the Sea Glide. With and without the Ultra Glide fins, there is a fairly noticeable difference. And then, of course, I'm just scanning the multi-purpose room, picking up the tablet, and making sure that gets scanned as well. So, as you might have noticed, I got the final fragment for the stasis rifle, which makes the game about 10 times easier when exploring the more dangerous area like the dunes and the Lost River. I know that's a bit cheesy, but I feel like I just need to be as safe as possible, especially considering that this is my first hardcore playthrough.
Aurora, I'm out on the far side of the system. It's gonna take more than a week to reach your position. Do you still need our assistance? Over. I'll try them again tomorrow. Damn charter's gonna have us blowing our credits running errands for Alterra. See what the long-range scans pick up in the meantime.
So right now I'm actually just trying to make sure I have all of the materials needed for a very basic base. I just wanted to start something that I could get oxygen into really quick, as well as a couple lockers just to start moving some of my materials. I have so much that I just can't fit it into my inventory anymore. I also kind of already had a spot in mind from a previous playthrough that I really enjoyed playing at, and so that's kind of what I'm doing here is just assessing the space that I have for a base and then laying some very basic foundations.
it may be prudent to separate work and leisure spaces to maximize productivity. Treat this space as your home,
Warning,
but never forget that it
emergency
is
power
not.
only. Oxygen production offline.
With base building in Subnautica, I am super finicky with where things are. I mean, throughout like pretty much the entirety of the base building for this episode, I just constantly swap things around, and you can see there's some a little bit of clever editing there with the power that I did with the solar panel. But this is just me going back and getting stuff and just bringing it back over. In hindsight, I probably should have just used the Seamoth, but to me it didn't matter, and I was just having a good time using my Sea Glide. So again, this is just me, placing things down and trying to figure out where exactly I want it to be. I don't know exactly how much quartz I had, and I really like this kind of 3 locker um, setup, but I just wanted the bigger ones. I knew I was going to immediately run out of storage because I'm someone that likes to grind for as many resources as I can, and that will definitely come into play later as I start adding more storage. So it's probably very obvious at this point. I was just unsure of what to do, and I realized I had built the configuration wrong with where you go into it, and so I'm just undoing the reinforcement and figuring out where I need to put everything. Like I said before, I'm very particular about how the base looks and how it's shaped, and so this is me just fixing that. And I'll put this solar panel back as well, but just I really, really needed to take this apart and redo it. I also didn't know that you could use the scroll wheel on the mouse to change the direction of what the building is facing. So, like for the moon pool, you can kind of see I was stuck with that one configuration because I just didn't know how to do that. And so here's me just kind of figuring out what exactly I needed for the moon pool and finishing it up. I started absolutely freaking out here because I didn't realize I was essentially about to miss it. Um, and yeah, I just kind of got a really bad position on the explosion here.
5, 4, 3, 2.
So I know that was loud. I kind of wanted to do that on purpose to make it a little bit more immersive. If you're someone that really enjoys watching and listening to that explosion, I personally turned up my volume on my computer, like with my headphones, when that happened, and I wanted to kind of recreate that same sense of immersion that I got, in that moment. And so, yeah, this is just me listening to the radio message for LifePod 13 and gathering up all of my stuff to move to my base. So, the only marker I had for the base was the Seamoth, which is, I think, part of the reason why I was going back and forth with my Sea Glide instead. I don't know why, but I waited like ages to finally craft a beacon, even though it's not really that expensive of a recipe. So, not really sure what I was doing. I think I was just really trying to prioritize getting the food down here because, as you can see in the storage, they were about to be completely rotten. And I did a little shake of the camera there in excitement after I finally got them planted. So, yeah, I was just going to wait for that to, start the crafting of the bio reactor because the food that you get, like the lantern fruit, are just really good fuel sources for that. And it would give me a better food source. So that was kind of my reasoning there as to why I really waited so long before making a beacon. I don't even think I make a beacon until what would be the second episode for you guys. So it'll be interesting to see in the editing process how long it takes me to eventually do that. So here I'm just doing some more updating and moving stuff around on the base. I kind of had a layout in mind with putting the bioreactor in this room, as you can see here, and then eventually moving some of the plants over. But I believe there's just a couple of things I needed to get it going. Yeah, there we go. Just a random fish. So yeah, a lot of this is pretty boring. I'm just kind of seeing what the vehicle upgrade console needs and just getting the resources. I think copper and quartz for some reason were like my number one enemy. I had to go out and find, um, the actual outcrops for just basic materials. You can see me getting some silver there. So yeah, just kind of a long, boring process that I will speed up a bit through here. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is my OCD when it comes to Subnautica and base building, especially with these planters. I just really want them to be, I don't think level is the word, but like straight, I guess. Not having them side by side correctly and like in line with the platform does bother me quite a bit. And I do also love listening to um, the sped up little roars of the reefback leviathan in the background. That's always fun to listen to.
The fabricator cooks small organisms while disposing of the skeletal structure, bodily fluids, and internal organs, thus rendering them safe for human consumption. Vital signs stabilizing.
So skipping ahead here, I have just kind of rearranged a bunch of the storage stuff that I have, and then finally crafting the vehicle upgrade console here. And then I just spent a couple minutes, familiarizing myself with some of the recipes, because as I said, it's been a couple months since I've played this game, and I'm just looking at the recipes and relearning what everything needs, and everything's just kind of coming back to me as I see what I'll need for the prawn suit later on. So, as we're approaching the end of this episode, I just want to say thank you to all that tuned in and watched this video. And if you made it all the way through, definitely comment down below if you liked this episode, if you want to see more, if you have any ideas, tips, and tricks for editing these, and just what you would want to see out of a Subnautica video. There's plenty of things I can improve on, but constructive criticism from anybody in the comments is more than welcome. So at this point, I'm just kind of setting up the planters and putting stuff in there, organizing everything, and then setting up, what I needed for the bioreactor there just a minute ago. So yeah, just finally sorting through my stuff, trying to figure out like what's going to go where, what I can add to the base at this point, and then getting off.